glad to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you for coming on.
it's so fun, and I hope you really experience it that way, Michelle. This is not like a school thing. This is just chit chat.
Chit
Yeah.
chat, very good.
TeacherSpeak, because it's a new venture. And the reason we're creating it, because it's in the process of being created, is really because with AI and all the technology and everything that's happened, in the last just 10 years, much less 20 years, it's just, you almost can't even get your head around what education is going to be delivered like in the near future, not the distant future. And historically, having been in education all my life, in starting out as a teacher and then covering teaching for 50 years, up until this point, and we hope to change this, teachers are really not heard from. So about a year and a half ago, I tried to start an outfit that was going to mine the internet, just crawl around and find out what teachers think. But teachers haven't even been that active on the internet to find out what they think. So I said, well, we just have to create an environment and ask them. So the whole point of this is really to give us, and when I say us, I say the people who, are outside of being a day-to-day classroom teacher, but who are really interested in it and have some role to play and maybe decisions about it. And so the TeacherSpeak is really designed to just hear from teachers.
I'm a high school teacher, so I have freshmen through seniors. I work in the career and technical education side of it. So philosophically, some of my comments, I think my direction might be a little bit different than a lot of other people, especially for elementary. I have the greatest respect for elementary teachers. I think they've got the hardest job of anyone because the foundational work is so important. But what I get to do, I get to enjoy what's getting ready to happen after they leave high school. And so for teachers, for us, helping kids find their niche, find out what they're truly brought here on this earth to do, have the passion and the enthusiasm. There's something that drives them. We in the career and technical education department, we get to hone in on those skills, like the broadcasting, the social media, the things that they enjoy doing. How can we make a career out of those opportunities? And as Emily just mentioned, just in what you do, right? And the things that AI is going to bring to the table. We've always heard in, career and technical education that there's no way that we can keep up with what is an opportunity for kids when they get out. All the jobs are being produced on the fly, so to say, and we can't be trained fast enough to get them ready for it. So having the students have that ability to find out, because they have access to everything. They don't have to hear it from us. Those days have changed so much. They get to explore, they get to test, they get to see the world like we have never seen it. And so we're just here to foster environments where they can truly reach their own potential and help guide them. I'm more of the personal finance. I'm more in the finance side of the business department. So I do a lot of personal finance. I run a school bank. I like stream ball games. So that's my passion. I love sports, and I love what kids can learn from those teamwork activities. I used to coach basketball. So what kids learn outside of the classroom that translates to what they can combine with what they learn in the classroom to develop their personalities, to develop who they are, their value system. That's what I find joy in. And then when I can help them with finances, right, to get them set up to say, you know what, even if you don't make, a six-figure, we can manage with what you make. Let's find something in life that's going to make you happy and that you never go to work a day in your life. Like my Aunt Emily, who's never worked a day in her life, because it's not a job. It's not a job. It's what you like to do. Sometimes I call it my ministry. Everyone's got a different way of looking at teaching. Some people are already, they can't wait till retirement hits, but I'm already past that point. So, I mean, it's something I enjoy doing, and I feel like I can be of value to other people. And so, not having children myself, I think also makes a difference because I can devote a lot of extra time that other people can't. I can volunteer to be site-based counsel. I can volunteer to do things and feel like it's my responsibility, while others can, have their kids grow up in their household so they can go home and see them. But I spend a lot of extra time after school and doing the live streams and different things and coaching and just getting that connection, because I think that's so very important in high school, making connections with kids where they can trust you, where they believe that you're going to be a great role model for them and that you can lead them in the right direction. When there are so many mixed messages, unfortunately, on these little things called phones that you're in charge of, Chris, right? Because mixed messages are sent all the time that tell them that maybe they're not prepared, maybe they're not that person, when deep in their heart they know they can be. They just need some encouragement. So that's my role in school.
No, that's an amazing role. And it's funny. High school is the first set of years that I can actually remember the teachers that I had that really they made a difference in kind of the direction. Some of us butt heads, but they really kind of set me on the right path, which was, it's not an easy role. Who am I to tell you? You probably know. There's some kids, myself, when I was in high school, I was not the guy that was going to listen to, I knew better, right?
I think we all have that or had that with us. I mean, that's just part of learning the growth process and, all the science and research and what the brain thinks and what they're coming to be. But to see the journey, just, from a 14-year-old to an 18-year-old is incredible. And I, you learn as a teacher, you're going to figure this out on your journey because you're on a journey as well.
Yeah.
I always say this is a unique profession because you continue to age, but your clientele never do. And so you're seeing the recycling of 14 to 18, all of your life as you're growing, maturing, changing your pathway, some of your ideas, right? And so how can we expect an 18-year-old to know what the rest of their life is going to look like? So even when they think they've got it figured out, we know better. We all know that. But, just showing them and being there for them and supporting and encouraging. The light bulb moment happens at different times for different people. So when they cross that stage, that doesn't mean that light bulb's already gone off. But there's going to be someone that's going to be impactful for that student somewhere in that high school because they've made a connection with somebody that's going to make a difference to say, you know what, that person, they had something to say that I remember. That's what's neat about being a high school teacher.
Michelle, how long have you been teaching?
This is my 29th year of actually classroom teaching. But I had 2 years I had to work as an instructional assistant because, Chris, I was very stubborn. Here's the fight stretch for me. Right? I love the school district for which I grew up in, that I came back to coach in. I'm very attached to this area. And so I waited 2 years to work as an instructional assistant, Emily, that I think made all the difference in the world. I'm not the greatest. I'm not even come close to saying I'm even good. But I will say, the most impactful years I had is when I got to work with 6 other teachers a day for 2 years in all the different disciplines. I saw what worked with kids. I saw what did not work with students, and I already had in my mind, like, okay, this is something to build on. This might be something I need to stay away from. But I think that made a tremendous impact on me in my first year, really being in the classroom, because there aren't many people that I did that. I got to do it. At the time, you're thinking, I've got 2 degrees and I'm making how much? So your first thought is, this isn't what I signed up for, but invaluable for what it helped me springboard from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's, I can't state enough how much teachers are like the foundation of everything. I have 3 little ones right now who are all in school, and it's all the difference to be able for them to even just connect outside the home a little bit and see what the world is like. Teachers are invaluable resource in society today. And so it brings a question, because it seems like there's a theme running where things keep changing, right? Just in the world in general. And I know we were talking a little bit about how Zoom and the pandemic kind of probably made the classroom really hard, at least very different. So I guess my question to you might be just, how do you view technology in the classroom in positive or negative light? Is it something that you enjoy or you just get rid of entirely?
Well, being a business teacher, we've been immersed in technology for many years. I sort of laugh, this even surfaced the other day. Believe it or not, students right now, when we say, oh, they know everything, they don't need to be taught. Well, actually, they know how to manipulate apps, but they don't know how to do word processing, right? And they don't know how to work spreadsheets. And so in the business world, all those things are so vitally important. To construct an email, it looks like a text message. So even though we're changing and evolving, some things, the basics, even in technology, need to be addressed as well. But when I graduated from college, I had an endorsement in word processing. And so I came back came back to a meeting with my former teachers, and now I'm their colleague, and I'm the only one that knew word processing. I mean, you think about that, how many years ago, 30 years ago, right? And so even though things are changing, and yes, they're when I think we overuse that word technology driven. I mean, because when you think of it, is it really that big? I mean, we're using these things and they're apps. And it really doesn't take all that much to learn because they can learn it overnight. And there are some kids who will dive in these PCs, they'll dive into their Macs, and they want to know how they, there's some real technical skill in there. That's above and beyond. But when we talk about technology, and I think I hear this all the time, because it's one of the domains, what do you use for technology? Well, kids are creating presentations instead of using the old poster board where we cut and paste and draw. Now we use graphics, and we've got software, and everything does it for us. And so when we talk about technology, it's really the problem solving. Are you aware of those different apps? Are you aware of those software? Are you aware of Canva and what you can do? And they've gotten really good at manipulating, which is awesome. But to me, the real technology is in that lab down the hallway when we're learning the 3D printing, and we're learning physics, and we're learning how things work, not the manipulation of it, but how things are developed in the engineering. To me, that's technology. Well, I don't do that in my classroom. We don't do that. Do we manipulate applications? Absolutely, every day. And we want to use them as part of teaching now because that's how you keep the kids engaged. Because our basics of teaching is still the same, right? The knowledge base, we want them to take more ownership now because they have everything they need at their fingertips. But we keep them kind of more controlled, like, let's get in this pathway. This is kind of what we need to be learning here. Let's go grab that information. So technology is the web base, and we go in there and search. But as far as the creation and the technology, I think maybe I just think we overuse that word.
Sure.
Well, Michelle, I'm really impressed with that. And because one of the things that I've been concerned about is, back when your great grandmother and my grandmother and your grandmother and my mother were teaching school, those were one-room schoolhouses with textbooks, and they just sort of directed different age groups into, certain material. But now, and they were the people from whom kids actually learned content, like how to do math and how to read. But what do you think about, I'll tell you what I think about it. I think with the advancement of apps and technology, that there's so many ways now that young people can acquire knowledge that it really does affect what the role of the teacher is and what or should be. And what I'm impressed by with what you said is that it sounds like it's just been a natural evolution for you. The technology came along, and then you're the teacher, and your colleagues are teachers, and you just have not, with much fanfare, just incorporated all of that into the way you teach. Could you talk a little bit more about that? I think that's really impressive.
Well, I think that let's just talk about real baselines is when they eliminate the funding for textbooks. When that happened years ago, you had to figure out a new way because you weren't buying anything that was new. You had older textbooks, and you knew we can't continue to teach this, right? We're moving in another direction. So actually, I mean, that was a turning point for a lot of people. It's because you had to immerse yourself because what you grew up learning, what you went to college and learned, that was no longer applicable because you had to come up with your own content. You had your program of studies for us, right? Program of studies, you've got your curriculum mapping, you've got everything you've got to follow. Well, now create your own lessons. And that was a challenge. That was something different. And so, for new teachers, I feel for them because when you come into the classroom, we have a new business teacher right now. He's got five preps, and no textbooks. And you think about how you've got to go throughout your day. And, my husband does maybe a presentation a week. And I always say teaching, to make an analogy, you're giving 5 presentations a day. And sometimes in our department, it's 5 different presentations a day, a day, a day. So that's 25 presentations a week. And you've got to be creative. You've got to be engaging. You've got to make the kids want to learn. And so that's been a challenge, Emily. You just, because of what they're having access to, and they can get to their fingertips very quickly and all the information they need, they expect you to be that fast too. And so our role is different because we're now more facilitators, and they can go in, they can look and they see. We have to teach them what valid sources are. Our role as facilitators look a little bit different, but we also know that students, especially now, like quick hitters. They don't they know how to read, but do they enjoy it? No, because they don't have to now. They can have a video like this and they can talk to someone or hear someone and they got their information. They don't have to take the time to read it anymore. And so they can be all over the place. So I really feel like, what we've learned is just try to keep them, because we are told what the content needs to be. We are told what standards we have to meet. So we've got to ensure that we're presenting that, because some students are inquisitive. And like you said, Chris, some students are not. And that's the hardest part of high school. And that's why I tell my high school seniors that this, sometimes they feel like it's going slow, but you got to hit that middle ground, right? Because you're pulling people from one end, and you might be the other ones on the other end feel like this is going slow. I've got this. I need to move on. But you got to hit the masses, and we got to get them all prepared, Emily, for that test, right? We've got to make sure that they all get that minimum competency. And that's where engaging students that like to move a little bit faster, giving them opportunities for, advanced training and thought processing and things like that. So, as a teacher, you're not just delivering once, you're trying to push from every different direction and meet a lot of needs. And that's the best thing about leaving high school, going to college, because those are the ones that really want to head in and to learn more, right? But everyone is on a separate pathway, and you're not leaving anybody behind, but you want to encourage everyone to take as many tools, place them in a tool belt, and when you head out of here, and then get on a pathway that you're meant to be on.
Well, you make it sound so easy and so seamless. Mm-hmm. Is this universal in your school? I mean, are all your friends, all your colleagues, are you all on the same page with this approach to teaching?
I do think so. We are. One of the reasons, Chris, I wanted to be right here, we're in a pretty special school district. We are a public school. We are a county school. But we, very early, I don't know, late 90s, perhaps. I know this is a long time ago. We had a group of students, just a little background. We had a group of students who, Emily, if you remember Kara, right, was taking over Kentucky. And they started their testing program, right? So they're going to analyze the different school systems based on this. Well, we didn't tell kids. We just knew there was a test. We didn't know it was just rolling out. And we had such a bright group of kids who just took this test and decided they weren't going to try very hard because there was no meaning behind it. Well, it didn't take but half that year for us to say, oh, we're in a school that needs some extra help. But in retrospect, of course, the kids now, I remember even talking to them afterwards, like, oh, if we had only known how important this was to our school, we would have tried. Well, of course, we didn't know to coach them up either, because none of us knew what was happening. But I will tell you, for our school district, it was the best thing that could have happened, because we formed a baseline that particular year when that designated educator came in. and we had meetings, and everybody got on that same page, right? And we knew what we needed to do to advance. And so having that, what seemed like something really terrible happening to us was actually the best thing that could have ever happened to our district, because we set forth on a foundation that really turned us around and got us on a path to be one of the top school districts in the state and a county school. We're one of the top county schools. The rest of them
That's
are
awesome.
private and city schools, independent schools. So, and I say that because I'm obviously proud of our district. But yes, Emily, our teachers buy in, and we don't really have a choice. But what I appreciate from what they do, we are all encouraged and we're taught. We are treated like professionals. There are things that I know that we talk to other teachers about where they have to submit lesson plans and they have to do this and they have to have a meeting every Monday. We are given the charge. You're professionals. You take the time. We get it right. You've got these goals. We know it, and we're all very competitive, perhaps in our school. And so we know, I mean, we're waiting on test results right now, and all we know is in site-based, we were like, can you just give us a facial expression? And we got he didn't say what, just got a facial expression, and those will be released when we get back from fall break. But if we don't do well, we all take it personally. And we do,
Sure.
we pick it up for that next year to just not to use, it's more of a, coaching style. But anyway, we see that as, okay, well, we've dropped our game a little bit. We need to pick it up, and these students can advance, so we're very competitive. And if that's our motivation, so be it. It works for us, right? Because
Yeah, if it works, don't fix it.
What's the enrollment at Ball County now?
about 850,
Well, how many teachers?
about 61, 62,
Wow.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, to have that kind of collaboration and single goal orientation is truly impressive.
Our culture is
school.
good. Our culture is good, and
Yeah.
the environment. And it's a place where kids want to come. You're not going to have everyone buy in, but something to add. One of our philosophies is for our school, we want kids involved. If you're not in a sport, you're, in a choir. If you're not in band, we want you in a club, because involvement matters. That's
Sure.
where people care about you. You find your niche, and we want students involved, and we offer all kinds of activities. And I don't know, Emily, if you remember this when you came in, but we built a middle school in 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
Compared to our 1964 school, it's like the Taj Mahal. But what they did, they created an art center, a performing arts center, that rivals what Center College has. And so we had a superintendent whose kids were involved in the arts, and not a lot of attention was placed on those arts. And so we were known for a lot of athletics, but then the arts came to be. And it is an incredible number of students who are involved in our arts program now. So we have kids involved. And we know that makes a difference for students too.
Well, when I was down there for the family reunion, Linda showed me that whole campus. And Chris, it looks like a college campus. I mean, this arts building looks like it could be down on the mall in Washington, D.C. I mean, it's
Really?
just very modern and contemporary and glass. But I don't think I've ever been to a public school environment, where you had a middle school now in that same area, and the high school that looks so much like an higher ed campus. It was really, really impressive. But like Michelle said, this is Danville, Kentucky. What's the population of Danville now?
Somewhere around 14,000, 14, 16, somewhere in there.
I would think 60. It was 12 when I was there,
Right.
Michelle.
We haven't grown that much.
Well, that's true. You got to go out in the counties.
The city's landlocked. Now, the county might be grown, but the city's not. They're pretty landlocked.
But anyway, what you're sharing is just so impressive. And I take it you don't have any intention to go anywhere anytime soon. Does the school have any attrition? Are people leaving because
Absolutely.
of whatever reason?
The other way around. The state of Kentucky, we opened up some options. You can cross some borders now. You can actually
Really?
go to what schools you want to go to. Now, if you don't live in our district, you will pay a tuition, right? Because the tax dollars aren't changing, right? Tax dollars are going to stay in the county, but you are allowed to go. And so, Emily, people are coming in from a lot of different districts, and we've got that reputation. We work hard. This isn't easy for any of the students that come in. Our eighth graders are already sensing like, okay, this isn't middle school. And when people come in from other places, like, okay, we didn't do this at our previous schools. I know we have expectations, and they're pretty high around, and we're competitive, and we're going to meet our expectations, and we're going to love on you first, right? We're going to love on you first, and then we're going to expect a lot out of you because we're going to push you, and we don't let you sit there and just in my classroom, you may not be always wanting to, but you know what? You're not even going to have your head down on the table, right? We're gonna work, and soft skills. Gosh, if there's something that we talk about all the time, especially in my classroom, is soft skills. We're gonna work on all those things. First of all, integrity, right? And we're gonna do things the right way, and then we're gonna know how to communicate with people. We're gonna have a good attitude. I might have to force it on you sometimes, but anyway, when you talk about the education part, it's so much bigger than just information and having you grow and your intelligence, right? And those neurons, but we want you to be great people. And so we've got, now that is the whole school system endeavor, from the beginning, in the elementary ages, that we work with kids and their soft skills. We don't use that term in elementary school, but we're making sure that you understand culture is important, and your good attitude and how hard you work. And so that platform was set a long time ago. So it's always kudos to the ones at the end. We just get to see them at the end when they start to become themselves and they start to remember you, Chris, right? As a high school teacher. But you had some amazing elementary teachers that were on that path a long time ago. And so I think our entire district is special because of our teamwork and what we all do because of the importance of kids. It's not really, it's not a person who's got individual mindsets. It doesn't matter if you're coaching, we're all coaches. We're all coaches, and we're leading and guiding kids, along with being counselors and parents and everything else that's on a teacher's list of people to be. But we want to be we worry about the holistic approach.
No, that's amazing. It really sounds to me like you guys are building, and I say building, you probably already have and have built and are continuing to build a community, and these little communities where people can fall into their niche, as you mentioned. I know when I spoke with Amy, one of the things that she had mentioned is that it kind of means the world when parents can kind of come into that community and help, and they take the feedback, and there's this like give and take relationship between the educators and parents, all for the benefit of the child. And it sounds like that is on lock in Kentucky.
Well, yes. I will say that in my thoughts, high school teachers don't get as much of that.
Sure.
I think, and I've watched enough of my friends that have children, and involved, and just watching out for and caring and jumping in PTOs and doing this and that. By the time they get to 14 and in the high school, they're like, they're yours, right? Yeah. They're learning, and the kids want that too, right? They start to develop in middle school their own ideology, and they're like, I don't know if everything and they start to become their own person. And
human,
parents are like, I'm ready for you to take, right? So we always have interaction with parents. We make phone calls if we have students that aren't doing well, if the grades start to dip. I mean, that's mandatory for us. The expectation is you're going to make that phone call home. So we do a lot of the initiation when it comes to getting to high school. But I know in elementary, I know that those parents are very, very involved. And so I don't have as much experience, but I know the students, the parents that I've already made phone calls home to, they're like, okay, Yes, we need to do better at this, or I need some help with this. Let's teamwork. Let's have some teamwork. I'll catch them, these 6 hours a day. You can get them here, on the way home. But you know what it's like in elementary school. You might be with a child all day long. And so you're going to see ups and downs and different things that happen. I get them an hour a day, and I've
I
never
see.
had them before. Right. And so we don't get that. We get an hour to make our connections as best we can. So you've got 6 teachers a day that are watching after your child. And so if you get 6 phone calls, then it's probably a problem all day long, right? It's not just in that content area that we're struggling. Then we've got other issues, and we've got a great counseling department that are there to catch those kids. And we just have a district full of people who care.
That's awesome. That's truly amazing. I know that's not every district, but the more the merrier, right? That's awesome.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's really cool. I guess so. It kind of leads me again, because TeacherSpeak is kind of investigating what teachers think and kind of future focused. I guess my question would be, where do you see the school district kind of growing? It seems like you've integrated technology very well, and it seems like it's more of a help and a tool rather than something that's kind of getting in the way. So I'm actually very curious where you'd see that taking education.
So we many years ago had employed someone to be our technology coordinator, not someone, not IT, but actually
Sure.
someone who would do the work, right? And say, okay, this is what I found. And we would have PDs where we would all go in and learn different tools. How can we
That's
become
awesome.
more engaging? We didn't have to take I don't want to say we didn't. I wish we all had time. I wish we all had time to go in there and explore, because we all know we can get stuck on something and spend 2 hours and it feel like 2 minutes. I just started this. Where did the 2 hours go?
Yeah.
While I'm trying to figure something out. So we actually had someone, our coordinator at the district level, who did all that work for us. She found the learning platform. She found this. She would bring that to our professional development. We would bring that to meetings and say, hey, I have found this. Find what works for you. Not everything. We don't want every teacher doing the exact same thing, but find those apps, find those things that complement what you're teaching in your classroom, where you can become, the facilitator or make it more engaging, and have kids have that opportunity where they're not just always listening. We don't want lectures. We don't want people sitting there having to listen. We don't take notes anymore. So, we're trying to also become, how can we apply this? How can we apply this? So, PBLs, right? That became all the craze probably about 7 years ago now. How can we take what we learn? It was a big initiative by our school district. What can we do to make a real live problem solving venture for the kids that someone outside in the real world is actually getting paid to do? How can we make something happen with the knowledge that you've taught them in the classroom? How can we show kids that you take your problem solving skills and you can go and make money? How can we make this a real project? And so that was implemented. Every single teacher had to develop PBLs, and we would have outside. We would have people come from the outside. We'd have, you'd get someone in that particular field, and they would be coming in from the banks and from the whatever field. For me, it was the banks. And we would take kids there, and we would do our PBLs and present. And actually, so we were working on communication skills, presentation skills, but seeing, hey, oh my gosh, I really love this. This is a line of work that I can see. I can actually I can make a living. I can take care of family, right? I can support a group of people. And so we've given kids experiences. And I think we're blessed with field trips, all the experiences outside the classroom. That's where I stand quite a bit, because the more experiences, the more tie-ins, the opportunities is fun. Let's just add that to it. But we can do amazing things with kids. So what do they use the technology for? Well, they're going to make a presentation, right? And they're going to make it look really good. And they're going to develop some things, maybe through some apps that they've got, that they can turn in, take the knowledge and the applications, put it together, make a presentation, and let someone look at this and say, here's some feedback. Here's how we can get better. Or, wow, that's a really good idea you've got. Because aren't we always looking for people who can think outside the box? And so the people that think outside the box the most are the ones with the fresh ideas that don't know what it's like out there. And so they bring ideas that
Yeah.
they creatively came up with their partners and their team. So we've been really big about that in our district for many years. And so having just those opportunities, we just really, we push kids, we push them to do their best and to give and to think outside the box and be creative.
That's awesome. Just to backtrack for a second, just PBLs, problem-based learning.
Yes.
Okay. Just to
Yes,
clarify
sorry.
for my end.
Sorry, yes,
I'm
sorry.
coming from parent side.
Yes. Yeah, sorry about that. And at the moment, I mean, even I thought, oh my gosh, I couldn't think fast enough to think. I've just heard PBLs for so many years. It's problem based.
Yeah.
Problem based.
That's okay. I was in the Army, so I have a whole slew of acronyms that I would use, and people are like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "I don't even really know what it stands for anymore.
Right,
it's just
right.
the thing."
Teachers are the worst. We have acronyms in education that we just roll off the tongue, and we got to remember our audience.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It's the audience. I think here is teachers. So this was a question for me.
Right.
So that's so you've come a long way from the there's George has 700 apples in the parking lot and people are bringing him more. It's more it sounds like really bringing in environments where the kids are going to go. And I think that's amazing because the environments they're going to go are changing forever. It's always something new, and if you can bring the new to them, even if it's old when they get to the environment they're going to, they are coming with those fresh ideas and at least the base foundation to really launch themselves into a fulfilling and successful career. That's amazing.
Right. And the ability just to be thinkers. I mean, if you think we problem solve, every one of us, every single day. How many times a day? We got a problem. We got to fix it. You can when the student looks at you and you go, all right, what options do we have? Right? We don't tell them. And students, we all have that natural inclination to want to be spoon fed. We all want, hey, we've got so many students, and I was like this too. Just tell me what you want me to do, and I 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to follow this, and I'll come up with the answer because that's how we were taught, right? Just follow these math steps, and we'll figure out the problem. And if we're I love chemistry because that was so straightforward. If I want to find out how many moles, you give me a formula, I'm going to go solve it, right? But now you come up with your own equation. What do you mean? I've got to develop I've got a problem and you're going to tell me to come up with an equation. Right? So that's what's changed to me the most. And you are going to be an independent thinker, and that's a soft skill, right? So we've got creativity because we can think outside the box, but problem solving, everything that an employer wants, right? They want problem solvers. AI is going to be a problem to solve. How are we going to handle it in the workplace? Right?
Yeah.
So is AI going to be a problem in high school? Well, when it was first introduced, and kids thought that they were, well, they were because they beat us to it, right? And so you read this paper and you're going, you did not write this. I had a colleague, I remember the day she came in to me and she said, I want you to look at this. And I read and I said, I just don't think a high school person wrote that. What you just read. And so the kids had already figured out what ChatGPT was, right? And they were bringing in that to us. So our district, again, with this technology person who kind of leads this, by the end of the 24 school year, 23-24, we were already having discussions about, okay, we're not going to find ways to say, gotcha, you're not going to use it, because we all know that people are. So how are we going to handle this? We've got to teach students how to handle it. We got to teach students to be problem solvers. When you read over that, you've got to critique it. You've got to read it. You've got to see that is not what you're going to sound like. You're not going to just have a content piece that's suddenly thrown in there. That's not even what you've got to look, and you've got to analyze, the analytical processing. You've got to analyze what is to keep out of that or what's not. We're all going to use it. We're all going to use it. And we were set from day one when the rest of us are like, oh, how are we going to handle this? Our district says we're going to embrace it. We're going to embrace it. Let's use it. It's going to be an advantage. If the kids are going to use it, we're not going to fight this because we're all going to be using it. And once that was kind of like, it was a weight lifted off our shoulders. Now we need to teach them how to use it correctly. and not just turn it
That's
in paper because it was printed off. Now your new skill is not coming up from with things from the foundation level up. You're going to have something. I did it. I tested it with my students that I get into a job lead process before they go out into the cooperative educations. I teach co-op classes. I lead them through the job search process. So yeah, resume that's going to be a little bit more difficult. There's a certain, I want you the mindset of what you need to share in this. But when we got to that cover letter that some people still want, I said, we're going to try this a little bit differently. Let's go to AI and let's put in some things that you want to talk about for yourself in that meat paragraph, and let's see what they came up to come up with. And they type this in and they get 3 pages for a cover letter, which is a little. So now we got to analyze it. What are we going to keep? What's you, right? Wow, did it help you? You didn't have to brainstorm as long, right? It happened a lot faster. But, as I sit down with each of the kids and we go through their documents, and I'm looking at this and I said, this is good. This looks really good. You made it concise. You took 3 pages, pulled out what's most important. Did the wording sound like you? It did. And it was really good, and so they're even like, okay, would they don't want language that doesn't sound like them. And I think they analyzed it enough to get it down to concise, but they had help. And so it's there. We need to utilize it. Sorry to ramble. I think that went a little too far, but anyway.
no.
That's what we're learning to do.
No, it's great, Michelle. I just can't tell you how impressed I am. I don't even know if you know this, but when I started Teach Now in 2011, which was creating that teacher preparation program, we used the phrase that we were building resource-rich problem solvers. And you use those almost exact same words in describing what you all are doing and how you're approaching students. I'm just so struck by this conversation. It's just amazing. And then to use ChatGPT as an example, which, a lot of the literature about education going forward is how things like ChatGPT are just going to ruin it. And you just gave the most amazing illustration of using it as a tool for learning, and really using it in a way that equips and enables. That's another phrase we used for training teachers, but using it to equip and enable students to actually discover what their own voice is, because within that 5 or 10 page thing that ChatGPT spins out when you want 1 page, really does give the kids, the young people, whoever is doing it, an opportunity to really sift and sort so that it represents what they most want to say. I think this is just absolutely, it just really touches my heart. It's just amazing. I'm so impressed with you. This is great.
Well, there's nothing to be impressed with me. Our school district is pretty amazing. And we, the resources, what I love as well is, they're trying to help us because it is amazing Magic School, right? I think that's the name of it.
I do know about Magic School.
Yes.
That's huge.
It is. And so we had a whole professional development day, going through different things, not just that one, but that was one of our seminars that day. And just trying to help teachers come up with the resource. And we don't even have to dig much further, because we can just type it in and have these resources. And to me, I guess as an older educator, you're hanging your hat on some things that kind of works. And I have resources. I teach personal finance. And so you don't get overly creative with your finances, right? There's some tried and true principles that you're teaching the kids. But, when you're engaged in a lot of other core areas, you're looking for ways to be creative so they can have a voice. And everybody has a voice in a different direction, what their backgrounds are and their experiences and what they want to share. But, just reading just the cover letters themselves, they're just like, oh, wow, that does sound good, right? That just sounds good. I think there's a little bit of confidence too, because sometimes we're not overly, confident in our abilities at times. But when you look at something, you put it together, and even though you couldn't completely develop that yourself, you're learning about what it sounds like. So you might be analyzing what you need to keep. But boy, aren't you also expanding your vocabulary? Aren't you expanding the way that you can put sentence structures together? So even those little things that are building blocks, even though we're not building from scratch, we're learning even more because we've got something that's helping us, and we can see something in a different light that maybe we couldn't have come up with on our own. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is the way it's going to be. It's going to be that way, so we might as well embrace it. But I love how, I mean, could I spend 3 hours working on a letter of recommendation for my students? Absolutely, because I would tear over every word and want to make sure that it sounded right. And I could, I almost, when a student asks me, it's like, I want to do it, but I've got to make sure that I've got time because I want to do my best for you. But my goodness, what I can do now in a matter of minutes, and then I come through, but it's my baseline. It's my baseline, and it is my voice still coming through there, but I don't have to worry about certain wordings like, oh, wow, that's a good thought. I'm going to use that, right? I think everything's elevated in what we can do. We're amazing ourselves, and we're saving time. It's for efficiency. We're saving time.
It's all efficiency. Yeah. It's all efficiency. And quality. I feel like there's a higher expectation for quality. I have a lot of friends who are graduating with their master's degrees right now, and some teachers, not all, it's kind of the unpopular opinion to bring AI into the classroom in my area. And the teachers that do tell the students, yeah, go ahead, use the AI, they expect that papers that are written and things that are coming to them are 100% correct.
Yes.
There's no syntax errors, corrections needed anymore.
Right.
It's just interesting.
It is interesting. And it will be interesting to see what continues to happen. I think the education part of AI is fascinating. Everything else that can go wrong scares me. But I like everything else that we're in control of and that makes the world a positive place. I'm worried about on the other end. That's another conversation for another podcast, right? That's for someone else, not for you guys. But anyway.
AI is great. It's perfect. It's
right.
This domain.
No one can ever do anything wrong with it.
Yeah. So I out of respect for your time, Michelle, I do want to mention we're coming up kind of on the 10-minute mark here. So I'm going to ask the question. If you were given, or Emily probably has this better. This is her question. I'm stealing it. So Emily, correct me in the spots here that I'm wrong. But if you were given all of the things that you needed to succeed, where do you think that education and teaching should be as a field? Did I get that right, Emily? No. I think you're muted.
For what you're asking, start over.
So Emily, you and I had a discussion not too long ago about the question of giving teachers all of the resources that they needed to create the perfect world of education. It almost sounds like you sort of have that, or at least are close to. But what does your perfect world of education and teaching as a profession look like?
I think the way I word it is, in an ideal world, if you could be if education delivery could be ideal, what would it look like? So in an ideal world, what would teaching and learning look like? And I think you've done a really good job already describing that. I mean, I think what you all are doing is I'm just flabbergasted. And it would be great if we discover in TeacherSpeak that, 95% of the schools and teachers in the world are doing and thinking the way you are. That's really why we're doing this, because the politicians and the people that think they know everything about education and who really dictate what policies are, they don't know this. They don't know that AI is being embraced and that ChatGPT is used in classrooms. They're still trying to figure out whether they should allow it or not. So, I'm not too sure that the question of, in an ideal world, if you could describe the ideal situation, what would it be? Because what you've done this evening with us is raised my hopes and dreams astronomically higher than they were, just because most of the time when we talk to teachers and teacher educators and people making decisions about education, it's pretty negative. And, everything that you've talked about is very upbeat and positive and problem solving and creative and innovative and technology based. And so we may have to give this some added attention.
Well, if I could go back, we'll make a complete circle. Do you remember when I said I didn't want to be in another school district, right? Because we have something special here. And when I stopped coaching, there was a phrase that I used. I could have gone other places and had some offers, and people wanted me to come, and I wouldn't leave my day job because that was a side job. I knew what we were doing for kids every day mattered, and I wanted to be on that team. I didn't have to go start with another team. I wanted this team because investment, right, from this community, and you're invested. Before, you're just, I thought about a few things whenever you're talking about the ideal and what that looks like. We had already taken on a one-to-one initiative with Chromebooks before COVID. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah, before COVID started, we were already one-to-one with technology.
Okay.
Every student had a Chromebook. We were already ahead of the game. So when COVID hit and other people were scrambling, we already had devices in kids' hands. We already had plans in place. Not that we said, we had our Google Classrooms. We were already in operational mode to have something happen, which no one saw. But it's like, hey, we can do this. We already have it. So the game changers to all of us, I would think, is just having that one-to-one technology. Again, that word technology is so broad. We had a device in everybody's hands. Not that everybody had the internet. That was a problem. It still is, actually, in Portland. Emily knows all these small areas that we have. But just having a level playing field for every student, everybody owns something. They could get all the same information. It didn't matter what teacher you had. You had the device that could take you places. You didn't have to have a family that had PCs or had Macs already in their house. Every single student had the same device, had the same capabilities of getting information, whether they wanted to go look on their own or if it was, they had things that they may not have had, maybe socioeconomic wise, that other students did have. So it leveled the playing field. And so when you've got those students who have access to that teacher who can come to them, especially in COVID, and not to say we were perfect, but we were already ahead of that game because we had opportunities. I think that one-to-one initiative was a complete game changer because there are just having opportunities again to, I don't want to repeat myself, but when we weren't using textbooks, right? And I told you we were kind of forced into doing something different, which pushed us as teachers, which is going to elevate their learning because we're trying to stay ahead of the game. I think our district has always been forward thinkers. But seriously, we used to be at a deficit if you didn't have a textbook, right? If you didn't have the money, the textbook money to keep updating. Like, oh my gosh, I've got this book and look how old it is, but I still have to use it. These things that we're talking about right now are game changers. And now everybody has one. And so
Are they district provided? Does the district provide the iPads?
Provides it. And we were starting.
Is that statewide or district-wide in Kentucky?
We were one of the first districts to do it.
Okay.
And we started, I think it was like 5th grade, and we didn't go any further. I think we go all the way down to 1st grade now. Everyone's got some type of device. I think the 1st and 2nd, 3rd graders might have an iPad, and then you hit Chromebooks around 4th grade or so. And most people in Kentucky now have them. I don't know that I don't know it's a mandate. It costs a lot of money. And our district was very financially stable to be able to do this, but they made that. But that was a game changer. So the resources now are what I call supplementary. We don't have to go out and buy the textbooks. We don't have to provide things. They carry this around with them. They take it home with them, right? So what we used to spend money on, those little consumables, we don't spend money on anymore. And so what do we get to do now? We get to provide experiences. Now we get to go on those field trips. Now we get to have our CT department have those CNC machines. They get to have those robots. They get to have what we used to have in different classrooms. If you all could see our budget, it's unbelievable, because now we give like the English department for 5 teachers $500. And you know what? Sometimes we don't even spend that. I mean, you just think about it.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
think
that
about it.
really is. That's
we don't have-
amazing. Kentucky really, I may just have to focus on broadcasting this, because, Kentucky is still like one of the 5 lowest in education. Why?
Well,
Everything that you're saying is so positive.
well,
Have test scores improved across the state?
well, okay, so which type of testing are we talking about?
The state required tests.
So when we talk about testing, we're going to have, you're always going to have that bell curve, right? So all I can do is I can talk about, because we pay attention to what we do at the school. So when we start comparing, Emily, you know more about the statistics comparing Kentucky to all the other states.
Mhm.
But I know in our testing system, the growth, and because it's a number, and that's our PR, that's what your school's district is known for, then we really focus on that. But one of the things that we've made decisions about, we could do 2 things. We could help kids either focus on ACT, that was going to help those students get college scholarships and into the schools that they wanted to get in, or we could take another path. And I remember in that faculty meeting that day that we all said, let's do what's best for kids. And if we have to focus on a test score, let's focus on that ACT, because that's where the kids are going to move forward. And I want you to know, we have kids that make perfect scores. I mean, 1 or 2 maybe a year. But that becomes a focal point. Our kids, when our kids are averaging, when our juniors take this test and we've got a 21.6, and we say each year we want to get better, and we hit an average score of all of our junior test takers at a 22 on the ACT. I mean, that's we do that for kids. So we focus on a lot of those things. Our AP scores, oh my gosh, it was unbelievable, our pass rate this year on AP. And so when we talk about success for kids in testing, we like to do that. What's going to truly help those kids going forward, not just a state test score, but what's going to help them get scholarship money, what's going to help them get into those schools. And so that's part of our holistic approach. And when we're helping kids, because, back in our day, guys, it used to be you took the ACT one time because it was an aptitude test to see if you could handle college curriculum. Now it's a study for test. And when we can help kids each year, we've got teachers devoted to helping these kids. And we got this system going on at our school. And now we have kids, we would have, I think in the past couple of years, we've had over 30 kids having over a 28 ACT, and we've got 1 or 2 having perfect scores. I mean, we're helping kids, and that's what our goal is. And so like I said, Emily, you might know, I know that you can compare what schools are doing, from state to state. But I know inside our state, for our school district, we are near the top in getting kids those ACT scores, and then on the common assessments that what's happening to all schools, not all the same things. So I can only speak for our district, but I hope that helps a little bit.
Those are amazing numbers. So
well, as long as the kids,
yeah,
right? Because they're the ones, they put forth that effort. We also have the majority of the family support that are going to encourage them. We were just talking about the money. We have, every student in the state of Kentucky has an ACT prep time. Sorry, not prep. They actually have testing in March, right? So every student, Kentucky, not the University of, but Kentucky pays for those tests. At Boyle County, we actually pay for our sophomores to test, because we can grab the analytics, find out where their problems are, what areas, and we can focus on that in study sessions. And those teachers, those junior teachers, will actually take those test scores and analytics and just break it down to give the kids what they can, for the kids to succeed. Not for Boyle County High School, who we're going to get the repercussion, we're going to see that benefit. But it's, I love the fact that we're doing something for kids. It's going to make a difference for them and their next step. And
that is awesome, actually. And just to kind of bring it back a little bit. So it sounds like being one-to-one with technology is helping you save money on one aspect. And now you can actually just roll that over right into helping the children's future even more. That's
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Lots of hands-on. We can buy, just like this live streaming. I mean, that money going to, we are providing something for kids to do that love broadcasting, right? But our community is so involved in this. And when I heard from someone who actually is a former student, graduated back in the day, but travels across the country, and every Friday night he tunes into our kids. And he says, you know what, it's not only, I get to watch what my high school is doing. And by the way, Chris, we have a really good football team who happens to be the #1 team in the state. Okay, so anyway, let's just want to be honest about it. I mean, listen, we have expectations around here, but our wherever people are, they can watch that. So our kids are doing something they love to do. They can broadcast, but they also know that they're giving to people. And when we talk about giving more than you're receiving, they understand that what they do means something to other individuals. And there's a dad who has a senior son playing his last football season in high school, and he's over there in Afghanistan. And those kids have just learned that dad is watching every Friday night in Afghanistan, serving your country, and you're doing something for him. That's when you take to another level for kids, right? And so we're big on holistic, right? We're having opportunities for kids, but also showing what they can do with a good heart and with their minds.
Yeah. That touches home for me, being from the military, having that background. So I want to ask are you able to give kind of a call out to how could we tune in if people did want to tune into it?
There's something called Team One Sports, and you can Google Team One Sports. It'll take you. You can choose Kentucky, and you just look at schools, and you look at Boyle County, and you can tune in to every game that we broadcast. And so we were a national game of the week one time, and so we were broadcast all across the country. And I don't know if either one of you probably not, if you've ever heard of Huddle. But Huddle is a major contributor to what happens in high school athletics, and they've kind of bought this group. But anyway, I mean, when Huddle calls you out, there are 10 schools in a year, right, that are asked to be the broadcast national game of the year, and you're chosen as one of them, then someone's taken notice, and, it's what the kids do, and it's amazing. So thank you for asking that. I'm pretty proud of our kids and what they do.
It's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. That's the easy part. When you can brag on your kids, that's the easy part.
That is true. That's my 3. I won't bring them up. We'll be going back and forth, but
Right. Well, that's the best part of being a high school teacher, because all those kids are your kids, and you just see them through. But we as a staff too, we don't stop in high school. There are a lot of us that keep up with kids, and they know they can always count on us.
It's a tight-knit community that lasts forever, really. So I still sometimes will reach out to my high school teachers. So
it's amazing. There's nothing more gratifying.
Yeah. Well, it's very impressive. And Michelle, I'm so glad that you agreed to do this. This was just really, really so good and uplifting, really uplifting. I think what you've shared is just so dynamite, transferable to other places. And you make it sound so easy. You make it sound so easy. And in education, we typically make it sound so hard. So you just have really, I think, made a tremendous contribution to your field.
Well,
and we will certainly make sure that your voice is heard.
Okay. Well, wonderful. We appreciate that. Everyone works hard, even like you said. Even we all care, right? Some of us, it depends on how much time you want to spend on something, because we can spend a lot of time, and you can stay at work, 24 hours a day and continue working. it's good to have a balance, obviously, but it's not because people don't care. It's, one of my newest phrases, you don't know what you don't know. And so thank you all for what you're doing, because you're allowing the voice to be heard, and now you're going to get to the people that do need to hear it. And
Right.
if we want to sit here and spend an hour on the negative things, we could we could come up with an hour's full of negative things to talk about, right? But that gets us nowhere. And so, the core of every single individual is your attitude. And so that attitude of how you want to approach it and what you want to get out of it. Not every day is, I never go to work saying I got to go work. I've never rolled out of bed saying I don't want to go to work. So you might be tired. You might say, I see him watch that UK game a little bit too late last night, right? But you never don't want to go to work. And so when you have teachers that have that mindset, and I think I've got a school full of them, and I think we've got a district full of them, but that energy is also created from the positivity of the families, because the core of everything is the family. And so when you've got a lot of negativity, it's we know what it does, but where it comes from, if we've got growth and opportunity, then there's something to look forward to, and we all want something to look forward to.
Well, your mother and your grandmother and your great-grandmother and your aunt are very proud.
I appreciate that.
Really.
We're very proud of you too, Emily. So it goes both ways. So Chris, thank you for working for us.
We were raised right, Michelle.
I showed a little Johnson and Feistritzler, right?
That's right. We were raised right. Those Carters and Feistritzers, they knew what they were doing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I hope I haven't overspoke or taken up too much of your time, but thank you for giving us this opportunity.
No, it was wonderful. Thank you. I'm sure we'll have you back.
Okay.
Yes. It was a pleasure meeting you, Michelle. Thank you.
Nice meeting you, Chris. And I know you need some family time. Your kids need to get in bed.
They're in bed. I came downstairs because I didn't know if they would stay there. So
we scheduled this based on the kids' sleeping patterns.
You got to do what you got to do. Exactly right.
Well, say goodnight to Tootsie and Molly.
Oh, Tootsie, Molly, goodness. Oh, wow.
It's Allie. What is her name? Jasmine.
Yes, I guess. Jasmine and Molly are still there. And they haven't moved.
Sleeping away. All right.
Well, I appreciate you both. Thank you very much.
But Chris, stay on. I had some tech problems.
Yep, I'm going to stop the recording here. And again, Michelle, pleasure. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
You as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.